Well, welcome everybody, and thank you so much for coming to the class. When Rick and I were asked to put on this session, we wanted to do something that was unique and different and a little out of the box. So we were very fortunate to get this incredible panel of people here to help educate us. And I would like to take some time to introduce them at this point. We have Barbara West. Barbara is a television news anchor and reporter. Barbara West spent the last 25 years covering stories of people, politics, and medical breakthroughs. Her work has taken her across the country and around the world. She has won several Emmy Awards and the coveted Edward R. Murrow Award for her news specials. She was the only Western reporter to broadcast from inside the reactor building at Chernobyl on the 10th anniversary of the nuclear disaster there. She began her television news career as producer for Peter Jennings in London for ABC's World News Tonight, covering such stories as the royal wedding of Prince Charles and Lady Diana, and the hostage crisis in Iran when 52 Americans were imprisoned for more than 400 days. Please welcome Barbara. We have Jean Ford, Manager, Cast Relations, Events, and Ambassador Program at Walt Disney World Resort. Jean has been in the events business for 30 years. Her most recent career move with Disney was to join the community relations team responsible for managing the team that coordinated all of the cast-driven community outreach programs, including our support of the United Way Junior Achievement, Bowl-a-thon, Toys for Tots, Back to School Drive, Disney Volunteers, and support of the Walt Disney World Resort Ambassador Program. Please welcome Jean Ford. Next we have Pamela Landworth. Pamela Landworth has a staff of 3,500 volunteers, and she has been involved with Give Kids the World since 1992 and was appointed president in 1995. In this role, she oversees the operations of Give Kids the World Village and all fundraising, communications, and corporate alliances for the organization. Pamela brings a strong background in community service to Give Kids the World. She was the liaison between Walt Disney World and Junior Achievement for 5 years and served on Disney's operation, community, and volunteer boards. Pamela has served on numerous nonprofit boards and currently sits on the executive advisory board for Something Magic Foundation and the nonprofit advisory board of the University of Central Florida. Please welcome Pamela. And last but not least, Mr. Bill Menish, AARECAINBAS. As owner of Menish Auctions and Menish Productions, Bill is helping his nonprofit partners raise tens of millions of dollars annually. Bill has been featured auctioneer at the Disney Vault auction at Disneyland, as well as numerous nationally televised auctions. As well as being an accomplished auctioneer, Bill is a 15-time Emmy award-winning broadcast journalist and winner of the prestigious Edward R. Murrow Award. Please welcome our moderator, Mr. Bill Menish.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Just one more item. If you have questions, this is an open session. So as Bill is conversing with the panel, if you have any questions, please approach the microphones and ask your question. Bill will recognize you, and then you can ask your question. Please don't ask any questions from your chairs. Please come to the mics. Bill?
Okay. Thank you very much, Cindy. Folks, we want this to be very, very interactive. We have a wonderful opportunity. In fact, many of you were probably in the seminar moments ago, and we heard from the experts in our field about what they're hearing from their clients. What works, what doesn't work, what things we should be concentrating on to improve our business. That's what's different about this one. It's the other side. We have the experts here for us that we can talk to and learn from them to make us all better and do a better job for them. So this is a great, great opportunity. We're going to go through and have questions for each of you, but we're also going to give you a chance as soon as you're ready. If it strikes a nerve, you want to go further with that question, please jump up to the microphone and get involved. This is a very interactive session. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start with Pamela, if we could. And Pamela, we were talking about at the last seminar, we all want to know what it is you're looking for. When you're getting down to that second, third, fourth choice, but that you want to be number one, what is helping that person step ahead of the pack in order to get your attention, to get your business?
I think probably the most important thing that we look for, because the nature of the event that we do, which we don't look at as a fundraising event, even though it raises usually about $600,000 a year. We look at it as like a family reunion, as a big thank you party. And so the auctioneer has to come in and really feel that and understand that these are people that we ask for money all year long. We ask for donations of in-kind services, their time, their value. So it's actually just being able to understand our culture and appreciate that culture, I think, is probably the key part.
Yeah, Jean, I want to get a sense of how often you are coming into contact with auctioneers. Obviously, with Disney World, you're putting on so many events for so many different people, but how often are they fundraising events for you?
It really just depends. I'm going to speak to probably at Disney and prior to Disney, if that's okay. At Disney, we do have corporate clients who come on property, and part of what they're doing, you know, there is that sense of corporate citizenship and corporate responsibility. So as more and more corporations come to property to hold their annual events or semi-annual events, they look for a way to also give something back to the community or do some fundraising when they have people in from the various offices. It's frankly one more way we believe that they can justify getting everybody together and making it more profitable all around. So we will get the request to help facilitate, secure it an auctioneer, the format, what will it look like, what will the event flow look like, etc. That's speaking from obviously the conventions and catering business. Prior to that, looking at other organizations that are strictly doing nonprofit fundraising, or looking at some of the, I came from the sports industry, 17 years on the professional tennis circuit working with the Atlanta Olympic Games. So you'll have nonprofits who will hook on to a platform or sports platform to have spin-off events and take advantage of, you know, the Olympic Games coming to Atlanta, or professional organizations, the NFL, NBA, Women's Tennis Association, ATP, which is the Men's Tennis Association. So who will contract the auctioneers in for their special events as well.
And you might notice I'm asking one question of each of them to get started, and then we'll kind of dig in deeper with each. So then, Barbara, to you, the big reason why I think that we wanted to have a media representative, though I think you can contribute quite a bit, but oftentimes that is the competitor. That's the no-charge competitor, because from the journalist side, it's a way to give back to the community. We're in their living rooms every single day. Here's a chance to help them raise funds at their event. Do most journalists realize that there are people out there that do this for a living, that they are taking that job, if you will, though their intentions are pure?
I don't think they do it, you know, even thinking about that they're competing against somebody else. It doesn't even occur to them. They're usually asked to come host the event, to play a role in the event, and then they might be asked also to conduct the auction. And they're trying to be nice. They're trying to be good to the organization. They're very community spirited. Their TV stations or whatever media they're representing is requiring them to do a certain amount of community work. So they're not looking at it as I want to compete with you. In fact, I think they're sometimes floundering around wondering how to do this the right way. But they are, without a doubt, our competition. In a big way, local media as well as national celebrities.
And of course she says our competition because her husband and I share something, where is he, sitting right here, very similar, and you're involved with him now that you have retired from the industry. Tell us about that transition.
Well, in fact, and I bet you this happened to you too, Bill.
Probably.
I bet we share the same story in many ways. When you're a local media person, you do get invited to host events and such. And one night many years ago, I was hosting an event. Wade also is a former television news anchor, and we used to host events together. And he was asked at the very last minute, the auctioneer couldn't show up, would he be the auctioneer, because he was so gregarious. And he did, and actually did a fabulous job as just a volunteer that night. We both had been fascinated by auctions for a long, long time. But he wasn't licensed, and but the organization loved him and loved the results and asked him to come back, and then other organizations were asking him to do it. Our dear friend Don Shear, right over here, former president of this organization, worked with us on the very first charity auction that we ever did here in Central Florida. Don was our auctioneer. And as a health reporter, I would often do stories on people who fell through the cracks and unable to get medical care because they didn't have money, they didn't have insurance. And we went to Don one time and said, would you help us with this auction? I got the TV station to back us on it. We formed an organization and we helped this wonderful fellow who was working at Disney at the time and had his own foundation raise money to help children who couldn't afford to have medical care. That's how it all started. But as time went on, Wade said, I gotta learn to do this the right way. I'm afraid to stand up here and do it the wrong way. So he went to auction school, and since then we've grown the business. We do about more than 100 auctions a year, mostly all up and down the East Coast. And we have a cadre right now, 7 auctioneers and a whole lot of side people who work with us. And now we do this for the love of it. I mean, truly, it's a calling. And I would say that to you, if you want to be benefit auctioneers, there might be some money in it, but more than that, it's a calling. And that's our biggest reward, is getting out there in front of an organization and knowing that we can't do the good work that they do, but if we can help them do that, it just feels so good at the end of the evening to have scored that victory for them and for their constituents.
So no surprise, we know that the media is part of that competition, that we have to realize and figure out how to get ahead of them in working for a client and them investing in their outcome by hiring the professional. So Pamela, let's go back to you. What are you weighing out when you've got an opportunity to get a known, you got to think what she's thinking, and tell me if I'm right or wrong, a known entity that the crowd is going to recognize the minute they hit the stage, and they're not charging you a thing.
Yeah.
It sounds pretty good.
No, it's too good, and from a couple reasons. Is because we have some very high-end live auction items. We'll keep it at 5, but it'll be a car. We've had trips around the world. We've had sports packages that includes Masters tickets, and I mean, really big auction items. And then we'll have 90 silent auction items, and those are all donated, completely donated. So it's very difficult for us to go tell those people who are flat out donating all those things that we're paying an auctioneer to come in and raise money, because they're going, well, if you've got money to spend, why, can't we get a little bit for what we're giving, and this is our base, and if you make anything over this. So for us, it's that. It's that real fine line of, the margin is so critical to us, plus keeping our administration rate really low. We're very proud of our admin rate is at 7%, so literally 93 cents of every dollar we spend goes directly to the mission. But when you start taking some of those percentages off some of these items, it really adds up. And then of course, it's the people, it's the celebrity. They're on stage, they recognize. You walk in, it's like we welcomed you into our home every night for 5 nights a week for so many years. You've got this relationship. Oh, I can't let Barbara West down. I've got to bid on this. I mean, it is a little bit of that. Sure. And you want that personal connection, and that's what the celebrity actually brings.
I really want to hear from both of you, but I'm going to go over to Jean for this. But a question for both of you, one at a time. So, what should they be doing to prove to you that free and celebrity, that they can top it with results? How do they get that across to you?
I can tell you, I was hoping I'd get the question.
This is
this is one I'm actually very passionate about. There was a point in time when event management and planning was kind of looked at as, oh, anybody can do it, it's thrown together. It wasn't necessarily viewed as a professional industry, and as we all know, it very much so is. One of the best things that can happen is, when you have a client that's happy, the meeting goes well. I have yet in 30 plus years of working in the industry, had an event that's gone according to plan. And if I did, I don't know what I'd do. Part of the reason you're in the business is because you're, maybe a little bit of an adrenaline junkie. I don't know. But what I can tell you is that when I'm approached and as a meeting planner, you're watching your client put together the event, you're there to support them, you're there to guide them, give them advice, and you obviously at Disney tell them, oh, if you want to do this type of event, this many people, sit-down function, on a flow basis, they arrive staggered, whatever it may be. You take all of those pieces of the event and you put them together, and you want to guide your client to the best experience possible. You're their consultant, you're their mentor, if you will. One of the things that I try and impress upon folks is there's certain elements of that event that you just don't want to risk. So techs, wherever they may go, I'm a firm believer of having techs on property, having them in the room, etc. It's just, you have a wonderful presentation, you're ready to go. and the laptop won't work. Somebody forgot the cable, whatever it may be. I will not do an event without the tech's there and the tech support.
How often are you guys having to work an event that there's no tech if things go wrong? Show of hands. Yeah, a lot of them.
It's a non-negotiable, and to the point where I will find a way to figure it out if the client is adamant. So one of those things. So the other is I try and impress upon them, same situation, don't give up your celebrity. Don't give up that person who's been coming to you, but they are a celebrity. They're not an expert at this. You want to set them up for success. You want your event to be successful. You want the focus to be in the right moment, on the right things. You want that person who knows how to create that momentum around the auction item, the trip, etc. So you want to pair that professional who does what they do, which is connect with that audience, with that person who knows how to handle the business side of your event. You will have a better return on your investment if you employ those who are professionals. And at the end of the day, you guide them towards, do you have a sponsor? Do you have someone out there who you know you can always count on, and you ask them to be the ones who write the check to the auctioneer as part of their donation and cover that fee, and you acknowledge them and thank them for making it possible to take the auction to the next level by blah, 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 and they have their moment. Doesn't prevent them from still bidding on an item, but it's a way for you to take the best of what both do, and you can help them justify what they're doing, you know.
Pamela, again, the original question was, so what do you need to hear from us in order to drive home that point that it's an investment in your outcome? Yes, you have to pay. They may not be in the living rooms every day, but it's about the bottom line, and this group's going to bring that home for you.
I think one of the challenges that we have is we have a rather large event. It's around 1,600 people. And when you look at the level, when you're spending $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 on an auction item, there's a handful of people in the room that are going to be able to do it at that level. And what has happened is if you don't have that ability to interact and call people by name because you're familiar with the people in the community, you disenfranchise 95% of the group and they start leaving, and then you lose sales on your silent auction items, you lose the momentum of the evening. And so it would have to be that, well, I can engage at least 50% of your audience at least halfway through this process so that nobody feels like, oh, now it comes, you know, you just see this mass exodus when the live auction starts many times because they go, I can't afford these items, I'm just going to go out and, you know, have a drink, you know, when you have an open bar. So that's kind of what it is how do we engage it so you don't lose people at a critical time of the evening.
Well, good. I want to come back to that because timeline is something that we really emphasize with our clients, and VAS, you're taught to do that. But I want to step back to the celebrity thing because we just a moment ago were talking about how to incorporate them, but I did want to live up to my promise of giving them both a chance to answer that question. So back to the celebrities. Luckily, celebrities, newscasters don't have egos, right, Barbara? Oh. Do they? Huge egos, right? Can't.
I've worked a lot of years in Orlando, and I really have to say that one reason I stayed so long is because I so adored the people that I worked with. And I have to say, and I think you'd agree, because Pam knows a lot of them, and so does Jean, that they are genuinely nice people.
Nice.
I worked for Peter Jennings, and he was a lovely person too.
But
I guess the higher you go in the media, probably the larger your
ego can get.
But
that's the challenge, because you do want to keep them engaged. You want them to help you have the most successful night possible. Go back to that timeline, I still segue here. There are times when I want the celebrity, the newscaster, whoever the case may be, to not be involved in the very beginning. Now that must sound weird to you guys when you hear this pitch. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, one of the challenges is, and we've been very blessed, is that because when they're used to being celebrities, they're used to being on the center of attention, and to have them know it's not about them. It's about the nonprofit, it's about, in our case, the children with life-threatening illnesses, it's about all of those things. And sometimes, you know, we've had some that it's become more about the show that they can put on.
Absolutely. Well, that's exactly what I say. If I can, I don't want them at the beginning. I want them after the fundraising's done, if we move all the fundraising to the beginning of the event, where I believe we have the most success. Another segue. I'm just going to play off these. Go ahead, Barbara, you got to.
You are so right. There's the right moment in an event when it's the time to go for the big money. And that is very much early on in the event, before your audience wears out, before they get tired, and when there's this anticipation, there's this excitement about I'm here, I'm ready to play, this is good times,
Right.
and that's the time that you want to catch them. Bill's spot on with that.
How many of you tell your clients that you want to be the first thing right out of the gates for the good of their cause, to have the auction, the fund a need, raise the paddle, very beginning of that part of the night? How many of you? Show of hands. Only 4 or 5, really? Okay, interesting. Because that's where we see a lot of success, but that's where I turned the question back over to you. What, you know, I could come across like I've got a huge ego too. Forget the TV side for a second, just the auctioneer coming in and saying, no, you don't understand. If I can hit the stage with enthusiasm and excitement and grab the crowd, entertain them out of a couple dollars right off the bat, and then get into the meat of the auction, we're going to raise more money. And you guys have never done it that way. It's always been at the, just play along if you will, always been at the very end. And we say that's where the person is sitting in their seat, staring at that door, trying to figure out how I get from here to there without being noticed, because they want to leave at that point of the night. How can we convince you? We do it all the time, those of us that believe this, but what do you suggest? How can we come across so it's not too, no, this is the right way, we've been doing it the wrong way all along? What do you suggest?
I think actually, I would have to see it to believe it. I would actually have to go to an event. I don't
So
think
you
there's
haven't
anything
seen that?
I would actually have to go and witness an event. I think that would be in our case. It would just be, okay, let me see how this works.
What a great idea, though. Just, you know, you have one coming up pretty soon.
Well, but also, Pam, you don't have your auction way late in the evening. You haven't worn out your audience at all. I mean, you still have the auction at a really fine moment in the evening, but sometimes the worst thing that can happen is there have been 20 people introduced at this event.
Yes.
And then there are 10 speeches. And even though those people have been told to keep their speeches to 1 minute and 30 seconds or so, they drone on for 10 minutes apiece or longer. And suddenly you're on at 10 o'clock at night, and the few people that are left in the audience are just like this. And it's over. I mean, you might as well not have even tried.
Absolutely.
Like,
So you've not had the fundraising early, though. It doesn't go late.
The closest that we've gotten to that is that, you know, they want to have a little beverage, and you want them to have a little beverage. So little
have a lot.
Yes.
not too many though.
Yeah, little,
You know,
little
can we touch on that for a
drink,
second?
little something to eat, and then have the auction.
Right.
And let everybody know that we're going to go through this part of the auction, and then we'll move into dinner, and we're going to save the best for last, and we've got some great surprises for you. So, you know, hang in there, because when you leave, you're going to be leaving with a little party something. So you motivate them to stay, but
I think
So
Lance,
right
I think
now-
you taught me this at BAS. I tell my clients that I believe it's a misconception about alcohol. They say drink more and they'll spend more money. I say drink more, they won't pay attention during the auction, and they'll back out of items when they check out because I was too drunk. What the heck was I doing? I didn't know. So it's a good balance. Whereas if you have that hour-and-a-half silent auction and you go into the room and get right into the auction, it's about the right amount of time, even for the hardcores that are putting the freebies away out there in the silent auction. But that's another thing that, you know, we have to kind of tiptoe around, because the common belief is, no, get them drunk and they'll spend, right?
well, it's kind of like hosting them in your home. Your guests, you want to get them a little beverage, a little something to eat, and then when you have quality time with them, it's the same thing. So.
Okay. Anybody have any questions at this point? Anyone?
Well, I could actually
Please.
interesting point here. Hi, I'm Taryn. I'm from South Africa. I've actually just moved to America. Yeah, I moved here on Friday. I've got, obviously in Africa, I'm in South Africa. Benefit auctioneering is not at all a major thing there. We do our services for free because there's just so much need. But I do a lot of charity events, and I was an event planner for 11 years. And I've been an auctioneer now for 6. And what I've actually found, and I don't know if this is an anti-auctioneering thing, I shouldn't have done it. I've actually broken up my auctions through the event and you build it up. I mean, I did one 2 weeks ago. I only had 6 items, but we had 4 big entertainment pieces, and I actually broke up the auction through 2 hours, and we got phenomenal prices, and it was a different way of doing it. So maybe that's just a new idea. I don't know if anybody would agree with me.
Does anybody like breaking up their auctions, or do they like to go once they get started until they're done? I know Lance, yeah, and I'm a believer in that too. nothing, if it works, I mean, do go with what works, because that's what it's all about. Give things a shot, do the things that work, the things that don't ever do them again. But I find once we get going, keep them there. I don't want to lose the crowd and try to have to get them back, but I'm thrilled that that works for you. Let's use that as a springboard into themed items, or themed events. What are some of the things that you guys have done that you think have been very successful, hopefully something they've never even heard of? Any themes or uniqueness to your event?
It's more been, for Disney, it's more been about setting the right backdrop. For example, when I was at Animal Kingdom, being able to theme everything so it got everybody in the mood, built the momentum, got the energy level going, encouraged them to move around the different parts of the park to make sure they saw the items, engaged people. The auction really is entertainment, and if they're entertained and they're feeling good, you know, it's kind of the whole thing, you know, you eat first with your eyes, so if the presentation is there, it's the same thing with this. If your presentation is there, if you're presenting it in the right format, you've planted people, you know, because we've used Streetmosphere folks to talk a little bit about what's happening that night, get the message apart in different ways, entertain them, etc. You're going to have a better end result. They're going to have more fun. If they're having fun, they're having a good time. Isn't always about the alcohol by any means.
Right.
It's the environment. It's like when you go to a movie. Have you ever gone to a movie, sat there, watched a movie that you knew was a good movie, the audience was a little flat? You don't have as good an experience. It's the same thing with the auction, so creating the energy. So I wouldn't say we necessarily created a theme specifically for the auction, at least that hasn't been my experience, sorry. It's more than just creating the overall environment and making sure that we did something that drove them to the locations. And then once they got there, the clients had the right people there to talk about it.
Barbara, did you get a takeaway there? I just saw you jot down.
Streetmosphere.
Streetmosphere.
I love it.
I like it.
Streetmosphere people, right?
Absolutely.
I love that.
Well, they won't listen to a suit, they'll listen to the funny guy in the hat who's doing the shtick.
There you go.
A comment about that, and we work with a lot of organizations, and we work from the very beginning with the organization. We like to, all the way through to the event itself, because we feel so strongly that the whole event can make or break the auction aspect of the event. And so it's really important that everything builds to this perfect crescendo where you really are able to do the most for your partner or your client. Oftentimes, some committees, though, as well-intended as they are, will spend all their time focusing on the color of the napkin rings as part of the theme of the event. And well, shall we have the leopard colors and covers on the chairs, or the silk cushions are a little bit extra, and they're focusing so much on that. You just sort of want to shake them and say, your theme is not going to make you a red cent.
There you go.
And yet I respect everything that Jean has said, because it's got to be a fabulous party. Nobody throws a better party than Give Kids the World.
Yeah.
I mean, anywhere in this country, I promise you, there's not a better event than what Give Kids the World holds every single year. But again, your event is really put on for three reasons: to raise funds, to make you friends, and to have a great time, to have it be fun too. And organizations sometimes lose sight of all of that because they're so busy thinking about the color of the napkin rings.
That's funny, because fundraising is where I was getting ready to go. Because remember, the purposes of this is to hear their perspective. So remember, for them, we're all about fundraising. That's what we do. We're professional fundraisers. We set goals and achieve them and exceed them and set records at our events. But it's not all just the money to you. The money's huge, and that's what you talk about the rest of the year. But behind the scenes, what are those things that are important that we need to be aware of as we're pitching you on these ideas?
Well, I think to us, it is much more than the fundraising. It is the friend raising. It is our opportunity, because we're not a nationally known charity, even though we're international. We're an international charity. We serve families from all 50 states and 72 countries around the world. So for our standpoint, this is one opportunity to get 1,700 people in a room and engage them. So you have to have this heart part of the evening where they really understand and appreciate what our mission is. And so a lot of times, how do you move from that, which is right when you got them right where you want, to an auction that seems crass? So it really is understanding that what we're trying to do is build these relationships as well as thank them for everything that they do for us year round, but inspire them maybe to do just a little bit more. So what happens is a lot of the fundraising doesn't actually happen that evening, it happens because of that event and the feeling that they had when they left that event. And what we find is, we actually didn't do a live auction this last gala because we couldn't find that right mix.
Of what?
Of not taking 45 minutes out and deflating what is really the world's biggest party. I mean, we have 2 speakers. We probably spend 10 minutes out of from 6:30 at night until 1 in the morning. I mean, we might have 15 minutes of talking period, and the rest is party and entertainment and those kinds of things. So when you have an auction that takes out a huge chunk of time, when the rest of the time they're out there dancing and partying and eating and drinking, we've yet to find that. So.
But what did you raise last year? What did you raise this year?
I think, well, the same amount, simply because what we did is we upped our silent auction items, and I don't think you can compare the last 2 years, unfortunately, just because of the economy. That would be really difficult. We haven't gone into a really good economic year and said, okay, now how is this? You know, with the car and some of the trips.
Now,
that's the challenge.
I have to speak for you guys if you're not going to jump up on the microphone and help me out here, but I would say that they would tell you they've had more record setters in the last 2 years than they have had in the years before, and I'm with you. A ton of them. So, and I'm so glad, I'm not picking it all, because I'm so glad you brought that up, because it's what we face, isn't it? We get the clients who say, again, I just want to do this delicately, because this is a great conversation. They want to raise more money. They definitely want to have a great, successful fundraiser, and I'll bet it is a great party. But they want to raise more money by cutting out the auction and finding other places to do it. And that's where we're going, oh, please don't do that. You know, in fact, I would say, I don't know who your auctioneer was, and I'm sure they were a great one, but to a random client, I would say, I think you have the wrong auctioneer. I think if you're afraid, if you're going 45 minutes on that, you probably don't have the right person. If they're losing the crowd, you definitely don't have the right person, so hire me. You know?
But you know, what we did was it worked, and if we could, you know, find that right mix, and then of course it's a matter of getting the right items donated too. That, you know, we have to have a minimum of a $20,000 item before we'll even put it on for a live auction. And so what we did is we found we had some Tiffany and a car, and that we did a chance to win. And actually came out the same way as we did with the live. And it might have been just, again, the economy or whatever. So that's what we just don't know going forward. If we found, wow, people are going to do a chance to win, and we're going to make the same amount of money, you know, that's where I'd have to go see an event and see how it works. And how you engage the crowd, and how they leave feeling really good about the environment, really feeling good about the event, and really feeling like they really had that heartfelt moment about what the mission is.
Great point. Do your auctioneers, and both of you can jump in on this, do they get your message? Do they get who you are and what you're about? And do they speak your language from the stage?
And I think that's a little bit different, working direct. How many of you work directly with a nonprofit versus working through a meeting planner or a venue?
Most of them direct, right?
Nonprofit, okay. Because I'm in a little bit of a different situation, and again, I'll speak from when I was in events for Disney and then prior to Disney, you know, as a meeting planner. You know, my job, same thing, is I'm out there, you know, looking for the business, etc. And so, you know, my reputation comes from your reputation. And if I'm looking the client in the eye and saying, you want an auctioneer and you want this auctioneer, you know, what I'm looking for is that person who understands our commitment to excellence, what our service standards are. I want somebody who's not going to be high maintenance. I've had both. I've had where I felt like I had one more entity that I had to worry about, who suddenly, through all of the communication, one of the questions we received ahead of time was, when should the communication start? Immediately. I will also tell you that I watch for all those little details. So, you know, if you've been anywhere around Disney, you hear about the Disney difference. And I take a lot of pride in that. That's one of the reasons why, you know, 15 years ago I came to Disney, is because I wanted to understand that Disney difference. So I look for you who are going to make my job easier, just put it very bluntly, who are going to respect my brand, my personal brand, my professional brand, and that you know that I've got your back and vice versa, so that we're going to deliver an experience that they can't get anywhere else. Because if they have a good experience with us, the chance that they'll come back, not so great. If they have a great experience with us, the chance that they'll come back is far greater. And it's easier to keep a client than find a new client, you know, that's a new business, etc. So, you know, I look at it as your business partner from that standpoint. And then if you understand how we want to approach the client, how we want to communicate, establish that relationship. You're one more person in that core partnership to be able to deliver that experience that they couldn't get anywhere else. And that is the distinction for me in recommending someone, and also recommending them when, because referrals, at Disney and coming back to Disney, etc. And that's also where I will make the auctioneer the non-negotiable, is if I feel that relationship is there. But sometimes that relationship isn't there. I don't want an auctioneer that's just technically sound. I want somebody who is strategic, who can see the technical parts and execute that flawlessly, but frankly, that's a given. If you can't do that, you shouldn't be in the business. What I'm looking for is that person who gets it strategically and goes above and beyond. If you deliver that, that's not going to be a Rolodex or an item I look for in my contacts. I know who I'm calling.
Do you audition, or do you go out and see? Do you go out
I do
and
both,
see?
yeah.
Do you actually ever hire somebody that you have not seen?
No.
Okay, yeah.
Audition for you now.
What about on video? Anybody ever showed you a video of them at work?
I have, not by choice.
Okay.
It's just you don't get the same feel as you do in person. So, yeah.
You can feel the energy.
Yep. And the other thing is if I ask them if they're going to be in the area, if they're willing to come, and they say, no, not really, but I can send you something, I move on. If you're not willing to make the investment, then there are other people out there who are. So I'd rather work with somebody who knows how good they are and is willing to make the investment. I will at some point, assuming that they do deliver against what they say they have, I will make sure that person gets a return on the investment. But if you're not willing to make it up front, then I will move on.
There you go. Emily, do you want to take it a little bit further on what you're looking for as well? We touched on it earlier, but some great information right there. What are the things that you sit back and say, these are the must-haves from this person if I'm going to hire them, and especially if I'm going to hire them again?
Right. And I think we probably touched on a lot of them. And as big as recognizing the role that the person is playing, and it's not about them, and it is about, and how do you not bring your own, it's kind of, I guess it's a balance of bringing your own personality into it, but not overshadowing the reason that we're there. And that really is a fine line. That's where I think I really have to go and see somebody in action before I would take a chance on doing another auction to see where it's gonna take us. Because right now, we've got people who are going, this is the best parties you've ever thrown because you're not doing this auction. So if we reintroduce it, it's going to be, oh my gosh, I went to see this person. They're really going to add. I think we're going to really be able to add the money, the fundraising, but add an experience to the audience as well. And again, getting back to that, making feel there's more people in that room engaged than just your 5 or 6 that can maybe afford something like that. How do you help us not have people leave the room and decide that they're going to go out? Because when they go out, they're not necessarily all bidding on the silent auction items either. They're going out and they're just getting away because they want to and they're listening in the hear when the music starts again so they can get back out there and dance. But understanding and appreciating who we are, and then really understanding and asking the right questions about what our core value is, the demeanor on stage, and things like that. One of the questions here was, have you ever fired an auctioneer? And we're talking about consuming too much alcohol, and it was a struggle, but we did have an auctioneer who probably had consumed a little bit too much, and so we had to kind of step in and remove that person. So it really is understanding our culture.
What, was that a paid person?
No.
Okay, volunteer.
Yeah, volunteer, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No wonder you're not having auctioneers back. We've got to get you some professionals, some sober professionals. I was going to ask about firing, so let's take that further. What else will get you fired? What about they make the jokes up on stage? They get some of the room to laugh, but some of them clearly might be a little put off.
Yeah, jokes are tough. You have to be careful because there's diversity in the audience, and you have to be careful with what you joke about. Making fun of yourself maybe is a little safer, but I'd rather see inspirational. I'd rather see fun in general, or oh come on, who doesn't want to spend 6 nights in Aspen, Colorado, etc. But I'll tell you, I was recently at a couple of different functions, and one that really truly impressed me, I just sat there amazed, was the auctioneer came out on stage. They had a silent auction part. The auctioneer came out on stage. They told some of the stories. And the auctioneer stood up there and had obviously worked the room and said, I was talking earlier with so-and-so, and he's been involved with this organization, said such and such. He was smart. He didn't necessarily know everybody in that room, but he made a point of finding out from the organization, the nonprofit, who in the room were the movers and shakers. And so if now I have this affiliation, And I'm talking about how long this person's been involved, and here's what I was so impressed by, etc. You know, it's that I now have a relationship because of this, what I've found out about this person. And so in 20 minutes, I watched this gentleman stand up there, and he called out to his wife in the audience, and a lot of people laughed and identified with this one and said, honey, I probably should have asked you about this first, but if you don't mind, and it was the electronic bidding process, pick up our device there, and if you don't mind, please put in $2,000 from us. I can't not sit here and ask what I'm not willing to do myself, and I gotta tell you, I've been very moved, blah, blah. He was involved, he was engaged, it was personal. So I watched someone who was a professional intertwine himself through that audience, and everybody, you literally watch them suddenly do one of these. They lean forward. That's the other thing that you can do is reading the audience. You know it, I'm talking to professionals, but sometimes that doesn't necessarily happen. People get caught up on the technical of what's next, etc. So if you're really good at what you do, that's going to happen naturally. But that gentleman, by just asking, we just learned that this takes this amount of money for one experience, blah, 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 etc. I need somebody to help me out with this, help this organization, help, and they referenced the family that had just been on stage. And they got the people to donate $1,500 here, $3,000 there, etc. In 20 minutes, with just asking for donations, raised $93,000. I mean this humbly, I'm not easily impressed. It's just, I'm getting old, I've been around, you know. I gotta tell you, I sat there, wrote that gentleman's name down, kept that card, and I will recommend that person like you wouldn't believe, because I was moved by the performance I saw, the commitment I saw, and what they were able to do. And then went on to have the people bid on the most expensive, you know, trips and items of the night. It was amazing. I walked out of there jazzed. So.
Did they do their open ask before they did the auction?
They had the silent auction, they did an auction of some of the items, then they did the ask in the middle, you know, bookended, I call it, by moving story on the front end, did the ask, moving story on the back end, and then did the most expensive items. And like I said, 20 minutes, it just tallied up.
How many of you bookend your ask? How many put it at the end? I'm an end guy, unless it's a long auction.
Bill, it depends on the quantity.
Thank you. I totally agree, Kip. If I have 25 items, I want it, you know, half to 2/3 of the way in. If I only have 5, up to 10 items, I want it after. How many before? How many start with the ask?
Well, it all depends, just like what Kip said.
Sure.
Some are before, some, I don't do much in the middle anymore. It's either before or after.
Okay. All right, so Barbara, what is the first thing that you think they ask when they call? They've heard how good you guys are, they want to hire your company, but one of the first questions is always what?
How much?
How much? So let's move into the how much. So when you get to that question, probably the second or third one out of your mouth on the phone, I'm assuming, we don't want to answer it right away because you don't know enough about us yet.
Neither do we.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we've talked for a while. Things are going well. I'm feeling good that I'm going to get this job. And I say to you, because I got to be one of everybody here, I charge a percentage, a commission. You okay with that?
I've never paid one. But I've again worked through other clients. I've facilitated getting the two together at Disney, and then prior to Disney. I've never paid one except when it was supposed to get to a certain level because I wanted it to be a stretch goal, and I've only offered that twice, and both times didn't get there.
But you heard from somebody that Kip's on the phone with you that he is the best. There's nobody better. Your friends strongly recommend him no matter what. Cut out this, cut out that. You gotta have Kip. Kip says, I only work, and I don't know how Kip works, but I only work on a commission. Is that a deal breaker? You're doing the nod. Why? Why is it a deal breaker?
I mean, the same reason when we have our fundraisers that work for us at the village, we don't pay anybody a commission for what they bring in. The people that work for us, I mean, there's no commissions. It's just, you know, you do this, and the proof is in the pudding of what you do, not necessarily based on what. Because, you know, there's something about it that you just wonder what lengths you'll go to raise the dollars.
But
and what lines do you cross?
Actually, the beauty of this is, and I'm fictitiously speaking, the beauty of this is you don't have to pay a thing. we're going to do a buyer's premium. That means that a certain percentage on top of every item that is purchased at your auction, they're going to know that they're helping pay for the fees so you don't have to. Don't you want an auctioneer for free? So will you hire me with a commission and a buyer's premium? This doesn't touch a nerve with anybody? Nobody wants to ask about that? All right, good. No, because it is a debate among auctioneers. There's a lot of people that want to do that, and
Well, I heard to go back to that challenge of you've got
a
donated item. I mean, and people give really. I mean, you've got somebody donating a $50,000 automobile or airline tickets or a cruise, a 7-day cruise, and then they're in the room and they've paid for their way to come to the event. They're sitting there, and now you're paying somebody. I don't know how I can look that person and going, I'm paying an auctioneer, but I wouldn't pay you or allow you to get anything for this event.
Use the microphone, everybody, if we can. Kip, do you mind the microphone? I'll ask it for you. Kip's question is, do you pay the band?
Only in the last few years.
So what makes us different as professionals at what we do than the executive director of XYZ charity running that charity? Too. I mean, that person's picking up a paycheck, and to some degree I feel like that we should not be apologetic about saying we charge a percentage, or there are some auctioneers who charge a fee for their services. I heard of one auctioneer who, hand me the script when I arrive at the door. I'm going to charge you $8,000 regardless how little or how much I make. That's what my fee is for reading your things and then conducting your 20-minute auction. Wow, that's not a bad gig. That person has got nothing invested in your group, in your organization whatsoever, no time, no effort, no planning, nothing like that, and they're walking out there that night with $8,000 in their pocket. That's not a bad gig. If you're working on a percentage and a buyer's premium, if you're not successful, you walk out there with empty pockets. And your motivation is to do the best job you know how for the organization. Obviously, the more successful you are, the better off you'll be too. But the organization succeeds when you succeed.
I think part of the challenge is that some people get a little bit of that feeling, and this is, again, as I'm hearing the conduit, if you will, is you hear a little bit of, I don't want, the relationships. I need to maintain the relationship. The auctioneer may come and go, and I don't want him putting too much pressure. I don't want it to come off, if you sign the deal for the car today, you walk off the lot with it at this price, but I can't offer you. That's what I hear in brokering the relationship. And sometimes, and it kind of amazes me, because if you do the math, I agree with you. I usually in the situation of, provide the incentive. But they also want, I really want to just know what it's going to cost me. And somehow I sit there wondering, because the better you do, the better they do, blah blah blah. So it amazes me that they don't see the true math. But what I pick up on more than anything is they don't want that person so motivated about the dollar that it makes them uncomfortable in the relationship side. That's what I hear the biggest challenges on the commission.
Wait.
And Bill, I have no problem at all saying to somebody just straight up, you hire a professional fundraising benefits auctioneer who concentrates on that and that only. You hire a Bill Menish, you hire a Kip Toner. You're going to make more money in your auction than the best dedicated TV news anchor, the mayor, the organization's vice president's third deputy cousin who knows how to spell auction, or something like that. Guys like you are going to make them more money. If they're worried about the bottom line, the best thing they can do is hire and pay a professional auctioneer.
No doubt about it. Do you think that your peers know that, or do they need to learn that?
I think there's still a lot of work to be done, and I can speak to this from the standpoint again of having seen the rise of the professional event industry, and working on the professional tennis circuit and trying to explain you want to hire the professional, et cetera. It takes time. It takes educating your audience. And one of the questions is what do auctioneers need to achieve in addition to financial results, and how can you help with, I call it the sticker shock. You do have to educate them, and at some point you do have to pretty much be willing to walk away, to your point. This is what it is, this is what it looks like, and stop and think about how many times the people you're dealing with actually deal with a professional auctioneer? It's not that often. So they don't have that opportunity. So you do have to spend a little more time, put in a little more groundwork. Who knows? Maybe it's one of those where, okay, here's what I'm going to do, and you may do this now, package it. I'll do it this year at this, and guaranteed that I'll book the event for the following year as well. Something along those lines. Because again, it's relationship, and you have to help them get to the point where they appreciate and understand it, and then you've got someone out there who's advocating for you. I personally don't think there's enough engagement of this association, organization, and profession with the people in the audience out there. There's more groundwork to be done. They just don't know. They're just not educated. You're going to have to move the needle more on that to get in a better position, I think. But I think you do that, to your point, by being willing to walk away, because people do respect that. They do.
Kip?
I'm Kip Toner, Seattle, Washington. As I hear you describe your events and how you want your professional to interact with your audience and what results you want from your audience, like you want your audience treated with respect, and you want to have that ask, be it the live auction or the raise your paddle or fund an item, at the right time of the evening. If that's all of the things that you want, the probability that you can get somebody to do that for no expense is really low now. I mean, it just is really low. And so, the reality of it is you may be faced with having an expense for that. And I beg of you, do not look at the expense as a pure expense. What you want to be looking at is, what is the result? What is the additional revenue? Or how is my audience treated? Or what feeling do they have when they go away from the event? That's what it's all about. The difference between zero and a fee of, I don't know, whatever thousands of dollars you want to pick, whatever that is, whatever that fee might be, if it's $5,000 as an example, that delta is much less than the delta that could even be earned in the live auction, or in, if you wanted to quantify it that way, the treatment of your audience, which is more important to you than that delta, for sure. In the long run, it's all about, can we have a lot of fun with this audience? Can we stimulate this audience to give more than they've ever given before? And can we get that audience to feel so good about that their experience is so good that they want to come back again? That's what it's all about. And again, you can't look at that, I hope you don't look at that, is, well, let's find the person with the lowest fee. Because that's there's no relationship there. In fact, I argue that you want to get the person who has the highest fee, because that's the person who can afford to spend the most time with you in advance of the auction to ensure that you will have your audience treated the way you want them to be treated. Maybe there's a question there. I don't know.
So you know what? Write that statement down, though, because that should be said to the client. That makes perfect sense. Why would you hire the least expensive? They're trying to get in the door with their price. We're trying to raise you the most money possible. Pamela, you went a year without an auctioneer. So how do they get you back on board with Kip's philosophy and with, well, go ahead, I'll just let you answer.
No, it's a great question. And I mean, and I know you've both been at the event, but when you have the people coming up and saying, this is the best gala ever, don't ever bring back the auction, how do you do? I mean, it's hard. I mean, it's really hard. I mean, and that's what we've heard is, wow, don't do that anymore, because this is so. What you almost have to do is you have to go and see what it could do, but physically, not take somebody's word for it. I would physically have to go and see and say, what could you bring to the table? And I don't even know, maybe if you could just describe. I mean, Barbara, you've been there. It's really difficult to describe the clientele that's in this audience that have probably been. I mean, we get the CEOs from many of the Fortune 500 companies are on our board, and they're in this room. They've seen auctions all the way, and maybe it's just that they get tired of being asked and they love coming to this one because it's not there. And this is probably may not be just the best because it's so different.
It may, I'll be candid, Pam, the level of your auction is so high that you're absolutely right. Every person, in spite of the fact that the real elite of Central Florida and from beyond Central Florida are there in the room, you still have a small core of bidders. I would suggest, quite honestly, because that's about the highest end event imaginable, that when you have auction items that don't have to have a minimum of $20,000, you do have more players in the room,
Right,
and then you have more people excited about the auction. We did an event up in Ocala, sold a motorcycle for $78,000. It was a $20,000 motorcycle. We sold it for $78,000. It's where the bidding went. There was an ego bidder in the room who was just going to win that thing no matter where it went, and that's what we're looking for, of course. A couple of weeks later, we were at Give Kids the World, and the same motorcycle sold for $20,000. And I think that everybody's got to feel like a player. That's what makes the auction fun, that there's something in it for everybody. They've got to be able to want to be a player, and if they're not able to play, then at least it's got to be so much fun that they want to watch the action. And I guess another thing too, and we advise a lot of the people that we partner with, and that is to not have anything competing with the live auction at the time. We advise people to close the silent auction before the live auction starts.
Absolutely.
Don't have their heads in two different places. Have the bar shut down at the same time. If you've got a casino night or something like that going on, do not have anything else happening at the time of the auction. But for heaven's sakes, make the auction fun for everybody, whether they're bidding or not. But I would suggest that if you were to bring back the auction, have a couple of lower end things that, I know you want to keep it short, but have a couple of lower end things that people can feel like, I can play in this too. This can be my game as well. You know, it's like having the $5 blackjack table versus the $100 blackjack table. Some people won't even go into that casino if the blackjack table is too high. They
Great
can't
point.
play.
That's a great point. Kathy?
Hi, I'm Kathy Kingston, Kingston Auction Company in New Hampshire. I'm going to take a different tact because I subscribe that you do not have an auction, period. Now, every auctioneer in the room is going to go, what? I think in this economy, we make the most money, and as a consultant, you can help your client make the most money when the doors close. So that if your valued donors are saying, live auction doesn't fit, you don't want to swim up against the river. But the people, the first question I would ask if I was consulting with you is, how much money are those people giving you, you know, in the year? Are they people who are significant donors? Or are they people who are just coming to party and that's what they want as far as their entertainment? If they're major donors and they're part of that very valuable group of folks, it may be a message for us that things are changing, and from a consulting and an auctioneering standpoint, can we help design events that not only raise awareness, but they raise money through maybe some other income streams, but can we provide an atmosphere so that we can integrate the auction into your long-term development efforts? So, you know, you may have changed your event or the profile of the event where a live auction really doesn't fit, but does a fund-a-need fit? A pure fund-a-need?
Do you do that at that event?
We don't. Yeah, we don't. We don't
So,
really ask
so there may
to
be
do
some,
that.
yeah, there may be the very inspiring, compelling fund-a-need that doesn't, you know, the live auction may not appeal, but something that where everyone can participate at a level that's meaningful for them, and then help integrate that so that the folks say, I want the live auction, make sure they're a significant donor. So, a little bit different tact.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing earlier. I was wondering if you're doing more than one event. Obviously, that's your big one. Do you have something on the other side of the calendar?
That's our one event. That's the only fundraiser that we do.
Similar, Kathy, but you know, I immediately thought, you're right, don't fight the auction in this one if that's what your people are telling you. You're not going to. You're going to listen to them, not us. So it sounds to me like you're ready for a second event. And that too, I mean, it can be an auction, it can be an ask, it can be a game show environment, it can be something. Right. But it sounds to me like you're ready to expand to an opposite calendar event and talk about increasing your revenues.
Or like you were saying, is broaden it. Is there some unknown way of raising money where you're not on stage, but there's some really cool way out there where you can be a value add, but you don't have to be on stage raising money? And what is that? I mean, it's out there. I know it's out there. You know, it's not just the chance to win.
Sure,
it's not a silent auction, but there's something else where we will not go on stage and ask for money either. I mean, that's just not something that's part of the culture at this organization right now at this event. So we don't say it costs us $5,000 to host a family and we host $7,000 a year. And so we've never done that, you know.
Know that they are cringing right now.
I know. Oh, I know. There's a lot of people. I cringe, but it's just been a value that we've never done.
Because we will raise $100,000 in the auction and raise $110,000 in the funding to raise the battle.
But you've got to understand there's going to be a lot of other nonprofits that are going to be like us, that are going to be looking for some other way to bring value added to this event that doesn't require putting people on the spot and making them feel uncomfortable because people are watching. And that's the thing, is people are watching who's raising their hand for the money or who's raising their hand for this, and you don't want to put, in a way you do want to put them on the spot because that's where the money is coming and it's that ego bidder and things like that. But have you lost part of a relationship because later they're going, oh geez, I really wouldn't have done that with my ego, or you've created a relationship with a husband and wife now because the wife is getting on to him, why did you do that? You know, we can't afford. But so what else is out there? And that's where we'd be really interested in hearing some of the really creative ideas about raising money around an event like this where you've got high-profile people in the room who probably want to spend, but we're not giving them the right option.
If you have a couple minutes afterwards, we should talk, because I keep reminding myself, we're not here to convince them, we're listening to them so we know how to approach these dilemmas. And this is a dilemma that I think a lot of people would like to further the conversation, but I won't keep putting you on the spot here. Rick, go ahead. I know you have a question.
Rick Stroud, Bernie, Texas. I just got a question. You're not doing an auction now, but have you studied or did any metrics on what maybe your free auctioneers have created in your clients? Your clients, or not your clients, I'm sorry, but your guests don't want an auction anymore. Why is that? Do you know that is maybe your free auctioneers, your free stuff, has created that atmosphere into your guests, creating that? Just a thought that we as professionals, and we get paid. Now, we have something invested in that, and you've heard it all afternoon, is to make the most for you and develop that relationship. That's what we're after. Just a thought.
Yeah, and I think just to answer that, and we probably need a second event, because I don't think we're going to be able to do it with this one. We're probably looking at maybe a second event in the fall. This one's always around Mother's Day weekend.
Oh, I'm free that weekend. I'm free that weekend.
Come to the party and you'll see what it's like. Because I think what's happened is we just had our 23rd annual one. It's been held at the same place, the Peabody Orlando, since day one. And they look at it, this is a group that collectively gives us $38 million a year. That's who's in this room. That's what it takes to run the village.
Wow.
So they've collectively given us $38 million.
Mm-hmm.
So this is really, it's almost like a thank you party, and that's what they've come to expect. So when I say what would it have to bring to the table, I mean, it's just dancing and live entertainment and fun. And so I don't know how you
in a club.
It's like
every year it's a reunion.
It's a reunion. It's like a class reunion.
If you're there,
you look forward to being. We have people show up that just pretend like they were like on the list to come, because we're always turning people away because it's a sold out event every year.
Nice.
So I think what we're probably going down the path is we need to look at event number 2.
Yeah, no, it does sound like that to me.
You know, and when are you available in October?
Yeah, let's talk. Okay. You are going to have so many cards when you walk out of here, you know?
We can always do a second event.
Janelle Taylor with Gala Gown. Ladies, it's lovely to see you again. I think what is being missed in the room is that while Pamela has, what everyone knows in Orlando is the biggest event as far as a fundraising event in Orlando, she's not our ideal client, because that's a party. They host the biggest party in Orlando, but it's not a fundraiser. And so one of the basic, it is a fundraiser, but not in the sense that we look at it. So one of the best tools that I can give everybody in the room is when you're looking for a client, what you have to ask them, the first question out of your mouth is, are you having a party or are you having a fundraiser? because we're professional fundraisers and we work with groups to provide auctions and funded needs that raise money specifically, and the events are geared around fundraising, as opposed to what Pamela's got, which is an amazing recognition and thank you party, which serves a different purpose. So if you're looking to get hired as an auctioneer, you want the clients that say, we need to do a fundraiser. We will listen to a professional fundraiser, and whatever you have to say, we want to learn. Because that's a totally different client than the great event that you have.
There you go.
It's an excellent point. Great point.
Great point.
One of the questions that was submitted earlier was, key communication that needs to take place for both the auctioneer and event manager to be successful. And the very first thing I said up front was clear understanding of expectations. More relationships have gone bad because you don't really understand what the expectations are. What is the purpose and the history of the event? Is it straight fundraising? Generate the bulk of the nonprofit or corporate foundation's annual budget? Find out if the auction is a huge part of the event or not. Find out where it balances out and then deliver against those expectations. And I talk about role clarity and what is it that we're looking for? What is it you deliver? And does it really make a healthy relationship? Because a lot of the misses I see are because the two entities are really not meeting. They think they are, but they're really not.
And that's true. We've had a lot of people that have come to us and said, but if you do this, you'll do this, you'll make more money. And they're not hearing what I'm saying is we're not, it sounds strange, but we're not here to elevate by X number $100,000. We're here to make sure these people feel when they leave that room that we love them and we want them to continue doing everything they do. Now, what's very interesting is somebody that come and said, 5 years ago, what you need is a second event. Well, talk to me. What do you envision? Because I'm open to a second event. But I've never had an auctioneer come in and say, let me do this. You're right. I'm trying to change the leopard spots, and you shouldn't change it because what you've got is great.
It's working.
But have you thought about doing another event where you have different people that you can tap into different things?
There you go. Okay, let's make a hard left turn because Barbara's presence here too, I think, is going to add something for all of us and for the clients that you're representing for us. And that's the media. The media's involvement, both the night of the event, but even more importantly, leading up to the event. So, Barbara, tell us, what do we need to do, what do they need to do to get your attention? Either whether it's because, somebody just won a very special honor in our industry, or a great event's coming up with a celebrity maybe. What are the things that are going to grab your attention when you get that call along with all the other ones of people looking for coverage?
It is, I have to, I have to compare what you know in the business to what I know in business because I live in a very hard news market. Orlando, Florida is the home of Casey Anthony, and if you followed that trial, then you know where local media is in Orlando. I mean, we are crime, corruption, crisis, and catastrophe. That's really the core issues of media in Orlando. I'd like to say it's not, but it really is. You just would barely know that wonderful Disney World is sitting in our backyard if you listen to the media day in and day out. So it's really hard. That is a hard nut to crack. And I get a lot of calls from people who are very frustrated, who have positive stories, and you get stopped on the street and people say, why doesn't the media do something positive, for heaven's sakes, There are so many good news stories to tell. And it's because the media has been told by consultants, by people who know, because they're from out of state, that's what sells. And it's all about making money for the people who own the TV stations or who own the newspapers. Let's face it, that's the bottom line these days. So how do you get past all of that noise? Well, first of all, know where the media is. I just gave you the Casey Anthony trial as an example. Okay, how do you get past that then? Well, maybe if you have a cause, if you have an organization that's fighting for children's rights, then now you think, okay, how does that story that the media focused on so much relate to the charity that I'm working for and the event that I'm going to have? Can I actually somehow grab their interest because there's a parallel interest here? That might be one approach that, quite frankly, could possibly make it through the door. the compelling news story. If you have a child who was severely burned and that became a big news story 2 weeks ago, and you are going to do a fundraiser to help the Shriners Burn Hospitals or so, well, obviously there is a news hook, I'll call it. When Don was first involved with us with the very first fundraiser that we did so many years ago, I had done a whole series of stories on these kids who fall through the cracks as far as health care is concerned. So we had the momentum going there, and there was an enormous splash, and the TV station was solidly behind it. Most TV stations also have a community relations department. You want to find out who those people are and then get to them very early on. I mean, these community relations people will be planning to do community events with different organizations a year in advance. So to call up and say, in 2 weeks we've got this event, can you give it some coverage, can I get your station behind it, is highly unlikely that at that point in time they're going to pay any interest or attention to you, because they're working on such a long time frame ahead of time. So I would say that through the community relations department, try your best to hook it to a news story. If it's an auction and you're going to be selling Mussolini's limousine, well, then that becomes an interesting news story. I mean, you know, just the uniqueness of that item, you know, to sell. But, oh, well, we've got a Rolex that was donated to our auction. My station would have said, so what?
Right.
You know?
And I know there's somebody here in the crowd that's going, this doesn't relate. I don't see how this all fits into us. Here's one way that I think it does. If you're calling up your nonprofit client and they're the Alzheimer's Association, and they've just discovered something in the genetic makeup, that if they can pinpoint that in an individual, they are more likely to get Alzheimer's. And that's just come out. And believe it or not, the Alzheimer's Association hasn't realized I should be calling the TV station today and offering myself as an interview. If you call the TV station and say, I can put you in touch with my client, would you be interested? And then you call that client, I just talked to the station and they're interested in talking to you. Do you guys have any? Guess who the hero of the day is? It's you. So think about that. Morning shows another way. Morning shows are more apt. I don't know about the Orlando market. San Diego more so than Louisville for my background. Morning shows oftentimes are looking for interviews. If you can get a celebrity, they love celebrities. If you can get a celebrity who's the golfer, that, you know, the football players holding the golf tournament or whatever, if you can get them to get on that morning show, you've just created a relationship for them, and you've helped them get word out about their event. Again, who was the hero that day? It's you.
Sports is a lot more likely to cover that kind of stuff, but whether it's the Run for the Cure or it's some tennis match or something like that where there is a celebrity, that's where you have the lighter, certainly in this market anymore, that and in weather are the only two places where you have a lighter moment in a newscast to be able to fit something like that in. There
you go. We've got about 15 minutes left. Are there any questions that have come up while you've sat here and listened to this that you'd like to have answered? Because I'll keep going, but I really want it to be your show. Absolutely. Come on up, Mark.
Hello, everyone. Mark Shustrin from Los Angeles, contract auctioneer and company Spark Benefit Auctions. My question is for you, Pamela, correct? Mm-hmm. Hi. I understand that you said that the reason that you guys decided not to do an auction is because of that feeling from some of your guests, they don't want the pressure or that exposure of bidding and such at the auction. Is that correct? Is that what I...
Well, I think it was mostly the air that really let out of the room, because it was just a handful out of the 1,600 people. There were maybe 10 that participated. That's more so.
Well, may I ask, I'm not sure if this has ever been proposed, and I'm just curious because I'm just as a gauge. How would you feel about an online auction portion for your event? Either be an online only, or something that's an online auction up to the event, and then there's a max bid and a low bid that's put in, and then the auction happens with those bids already there, and those people that wanted to participate already have, they could even be there, their max bid's already put in, and they don't have to have that pressure put on them. Is that something that you would think considering?
I'm sorry, so I've heard of
I know it would take a bit for me to explain to you the portion how it would work.
You still have the live auction.
Yeah, you could do it either way. You could still have a live auction, but those people who wanted to participate could already have their bid in.
Right.
They're only going to pay up to what they have adjusted it to. Right. And people are bidding live against those bids that have already been put in. Right. So those people that don't want to have the focus be put on them, then it doesn't have to be. And their bids are already there, they're already contributing. And so basically, you'd still have a live auction, but with those people not having to actually raise bid cards, their bid's already in. Do you think that's something that might be a little more acceptable?
I think generally, again, not for our event, but I think generally that's a great idea, but I don't know how that takes away from disengaging the majority of your audience and having that period where the room just feels that they're not being able to participate.
I'm sorry, wait, if you could just repeat that last part.
Yeah, where you've got these auctions, where the majority of the room is not participating in the auction. They just don't feel that they're engaged.
Oh, right, so they're twiddling their thumbs here while...
That doesn't really solve that.
Well, then what do you think about an online auction that's for the event, that the items are donated for the event, the auction, then you can even have it announced by the auctioneer what the totals were, what you brought in there, thanking everyone, congratulating everyone, and that can something that can be set up by an auctioneer like myself, who just took the ATS.
Yeah, I mean, so there's nothing that happens on stage except for the announcement.
Right. I mean, sounds like a solution, doesn't it? Mark Shustrin, markauctioneer@gmail.com, smartauctions.com, 310-251-7306. We'll talk after.
Give me your card.
I was just wondering, I'm standing over there, so I had to work the camera. I had to get over here and ask. When you're out there with your auction event, well, it's not an auction event. Your event is raising significant amounts of money, and it's a party. What are you hearing that we need to hear back as a group of professional fundraisers from the people you talk to? Because it just disturbs me to hear that you've got these people, and oh God, whatever you do, don't bring an auctioneer here. And what I'm thinking is, I spent time with Bill and some of the other people in this room at the Certified Auctioneer Institute. You hear us bannering about these labels, benefit auction specials. You don't know what we're talking about. But I was privileged to have Bill and Sherry in the room teaching the rest of us. I'm a small auctioneer from Missouri. I have 600 world records selling something else, comic books and stuff. But Bill is an expert in another area. And so for us to come together in the NAA, it's wonderful because we get this cross-pollination and we all help each other. But Bill, to watch this guy work a room, or Sherry Truler, is a truly amazing thing. Now, I don't have a big video camera like him. I brought my little Sony camera and I filmed it. But you should go out and watch the CAI fun auction that we did last year and just see what they did in the first item. Now, it's not multi-millionaires. We've got auctioneers in the room, well, some of them are, but my point is that the first item, he ignited the crowd with this wine auction idea, and I just wish you could see it because it's so, and I'm not sucking up to Bill, it was neat, and it was neat for me to watch what they normally do, because it's not what I do. It's like something if I go into a client and say, hey, you gotta watch this. But, you're looking for something fun. Bill turns all of the people at the table into auctioneers. And then they auction off something. And now, of course, in this case, they're all auctioneers. But it works the same way with a regular crowd. And I heard him talk about it. But to actually, and we had planned this thing for like almost a year. But to watch the crowd get ignited when you did that, it's not like anything. And we go to a lot of auctions. We're auctioneers. So to see that happen, it's like, wow. And right out of the bat, you sell something for $7,000 that, wasn't worth $1,000, maybe. Don't tell Sherry I said that. But the thing is, it was phenomenal. And I know it's a little bit different, and I know the other people hadn't seen it because, who got made into an auctioneer. But anyway, I don't know what we need to do, but when I hear you saying that, it just hurts. And I know that you're not doing it to hurt us, but I'm looking at thinking there's some really good people in this room, and I'm not trying to get your business because it's not even what I do. It's what he does.
But I just leaned over and asked, would you mind if I interject here? So I'm going to play the role of an event and planner here, and this is my client. 20 minutes ago, we pretty much said that this event's off the table.
Absolutely.
Okay, so, but we continue to discuss it. The person who's smart about it comes up with other options, I heard that. The person who recognizes, and I appreciate the business relationship, and the professional who said, you know what, because I'm sitting here listening to my client, this is a donor program, it's a booster club. It's not an auction event, and you said it so eloquently, I'm not doing you justice. So I think if I were to be sitting here, I would politely move the conversation away, and I would start to talk about the other events. So I think this is actually probably a good exercise that we just went through. She said on numerous occasions that this event isn't that. You've got people in that room who they're actually, bear with me, I may be misrepresenting it, they're actually donating for the right not to be auctioned to. They're
Absolutely.
saying, I will give you this amount of money, $38 million, for the right to come and just have a good time. Now, exactly, just have a good time. I will tell you, more and more events, you don't want to hear it, are tending to go that way. They do the ask in other ways. So you all have to think about, where's our industry going? How can we reinvent ourselves? And you know the industries out there who didn't quite stay ahead of the momentum of their industry, and now they're playing catch up or they've lost the ground. So I would just tell you right here, as I'm sitting here, this was a perfect case study. So I think she's already said, new event, new concepts, possibly do something offline, don't want to do anything on stage. We have just been handed what we need to do. So I think that this was a good case study. I'm just pointing out that this is,
Thank you.
I'd just like to make a comment as well. I think very much we're not just auctioneers anymore, we're auctiontainers. And it's not that we've got to get up there and do the bid calling. We must be part of that entertainment, and people must walk away from that event going, wow, that was phenomenal. That girl was phenomenal. And that is part of what we are getting paid for, is to create the atmosphere around that event, not just sell.
Okay, we're winding down. Anybody else? I had one. As I look around and I see the cowboy hat here, and I know a bunch of people, and Lance, I love his Tennessee drawl, and then the South African accent. You know, we are so diverse as auctioneers. So I bring that to you. How does that play? Is there an image or a stereotype of an auctioneer that you're looking for, and is it good when they break the mold and bring some character and some personality outside of what you expected, or where does that play into it? How should we consider that as we present ourselves and our uniquenesses?
I think, again, going to another event, which I'm very open to, and I would love to, and I love South Africa. My daughter just got back from 2 years in the Peace Corps in Lesotho, so yeah, I've visited her a couple times, great area. So I think it's more, that's where I'd have to go and see some of these events and see what it's like and experience and go, yeah, I can see that working with a different group. It's not, I mean, we're talking a black tie event. Well, our second event would probably not be a black tie event. It would be more around that kind of an entertainment where people know when they come, we're after your wallet at this event. I mean, seriously, we're after your heart, but we're also after your wallet, because this is not going to be the 3 or 4 course dinner, black tie event, entertainment over the top, open bar. This is going to be another event where you're going to really feel appreciated, but we need to raise some serious money. And so I think that would be, again, where I'd love to just go out and see some of those ideas, and that's what it's going to have to.
That was a takeaway for me when you said it earlier, and I don't know if anybody else sees this. What a great idea to start inviting potential clients to your next auction. And I'm walking away right now saying,
I wouldn't do it sight unseen. I wouldn't do it unless I saw
I'm walking away right now as I'm trying to break into a new area. We've moved, and you just gave me a great idea. I'm going to invite 5 people, 5 potential clients to every auction from here on out because of what you said earlier. I think it's a great way.
And when you talk about accents or whatever, it really comes to personality. You get a vibe, you get a feeling, you get a chemistry or whatever. It really is, it comes back to that relationship, and you want that person who is going to walk in with that personality and create that spark. Because if you're getting ready to work on the event and they can create that spark with you, you're going to have the confidence in that person. It really is about chemistry, and then I'm going to, if I feel like you're into it, you're jazzed, and you're not selling me a bunch of hooey, you're not pitching me, but you are coming to me as a professional, telling me about what you do and what excites you about it and how you'd like to help, and you've done your homework. Please do your homework. I cannot tell you how many times people knock on Disney's door and they say, we love, and I'm not going to say it because it's at another location, we love this part of your park, and that happens to be up the street. Oh, well, thank you very much. Do your homework, respect my time, I'm going to respect yours, and then again, once you've got that relationship, over and over again, you're going to get the return on the business. But the personality and creating that feeling, because it's a competitive marketplace out there, that's what is going to get you that not only the gig, but it's going to get you that person who's going to say, you know what, you are worth $8,000.
The only thing that I would add to that is, I think the most important thing is that we do this when you have to raise the serious amount of money that we have to raise. And I go in and I talk to 95% of that comes from corporations, and so we don't do a lot of individual anyway. I don't go in saying, let me tell you what I can do for you. It's what would make this a successful relationship for you, the organization. You have to do well to do good. I had to see the chief marketing officer for Procter & Gamble once tell me, Pam, we love you. We love what you do. We got to sell more Tide, and we're going to support you. How do I help you sell more Tide? So what I'm saying is, my suggestion for anybody who wants to come in is don't come in and say, this is what I can do for you, until you hear from me what I want you to do for me, and then you can twist that and turn it, but it would be don't sell me. This is what I have in my organization. I've come out there, I've looked, you're such a gracious organization, your events have grace. I wouldn't come at you with this kind of an idea. This is what I think would blend with your culture, your style. I know what your core values are. I know that you don't do name celebrities in terms of actors and actresses, because you never know what's going to come out of their mouth. We don't position ourselves with any of those. That's what I want.
Right.
But I want you to listen at first, because I want you to understand who we are.
Right. And think in terms of you're offering a business proposal, because again, as I said, I look at you as a business partner. I don't want a proposal. I don't want a quote. I want a business plan. What is your business plan? There's a difference. It's in the packaging. It's no longer the pitch. We're in it together. It's a tough economy. I know what you want. You know what I want. So how do we get there? So you're actually giving me a business plan. You're not giving me a proposal or a quote. And that's where you get into arguing for your fee, is when you're quoting me. That's the difference.
And I think really, and this probably just goes with all sales people and not just for nonprofits or anything, I love that you're going to take that idea, because you can give the invitation, because it's the person that calls and gets directly to my secretary and says, I'm only going to talk to Pam, and she's got to call me back, and she says, what's it reference to? I'm not going to tell you, I'm only going to talk to Pam. That person won't get a call back. They just won't. So, and that's probably true in the business world as well. So I think it's more that soft approach, and how do you create friendships before you try to sell me something?
Relationships, absolutely. Rick, did you still have a question? It's the last one, though, because we got to wrap up here.
Just real quick, and probably more for Gene. How do we get to you to get you to our events?
Yeah, that's a little tougher at Disney, isn't it? It is and it isn't. There's a process in place, and this is actually a good case in point. You have to appreciate and respect the system. It is in place, and it can be tougher to get to the individual person, but find out who that person is. Create those opportunities to be in the same mix. We go to a lot of fundraising events. Go to a fundraising event.
6 degrees of separation.
Bump into the people who are out there. Again, I went to an event as a sponsor of a table, pretty much as a guest. I didn't have any work responsibility that night. I went in support of my community relations department. And I walk away with that person. I'm not going to forget that auctioneer and a couple other people that I saw working that event. I don't know how directly I will have, or directly that I might have, but I know a lot of people. I've been doing this a long time. I get a lot of phone calls. Hey, do you know anybody who could? Actually, I do. This person was inspiring. Here you go. So you find those opportunities to see the program, and you can get to them. Work the system. It may cost you more to work the system at Disney in time investment, but think of the magnitude of the work that's on the property. That's a big footprint. We do thousands and thousands of events, so it's worth the investment.
All right, that's all the time we have. Cindy's going to come up in a second, but how about a round of applause for Pamela Landis, Dean Ford, and Barbara Webb. And if I may, I got to tell you, Cindy and Rick worked their tail off on this event. Give them a round of applause, too, for the work that brought this all the way back.
Yeah, I just want to say, Pamela mentioned 6 degrees of separation. I practice it. I talk to my clients about degrees of separation all the time. I never practiced it. You see the results. I would like to thank personally Mr. Don Shear. Don, please stand up. And everybody, without Don, this couldn't have happened. So I really appreciate that.